The mahogany split with a sound I'll never forget. Like a bone snapping. Like a heart breaking in two. My 7-year-old son Ezra stood frozen in our living room doorway, his small fingers still curved as if holding the instrument that had been his whole world just seconds before. The 1952 Martin D-28 his grandfather had left him lay in pieces across our hardwood floor, its beautiful amber finish catching the afternoon light like scattered tears. My cousin Delphine stood over the wreckage, her manicured hands on her hips, that cruel smile stretching across her face like a wound. She was 38, successful, and had always believed the world owed her everything. Today, she decided my son owed her something too. He doesn't deserve it, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. A kid that young with something so valuable? It's ridiculous. My Aunt Cordelia nodded from the couch, her gray head bobbing like a dashboard ornament. You spoil him too much, Sage. Children need to learn they can't have everything. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. Ezra's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't make a sound. My brave little boy, trying so hard not to cry in front of these monsters who called themselves family. Something cold settled in my chest. Something final. I walked slowly to where the neck of the guitar lay separated from its body, and picked up a piece of the mother-of-pearl inlay that had spelled out Ezra's name. The one his grandfather had custom-made before he died. Then I looked up at my cousin and my aunt, and I whispered 6 words that would change everything. The smirks vanished from their faces like smoke. But what I said to them that day, that's a story that goes much deeper than a broken guitar. It's a story about family secrets, about justice, and about what happens when you push the wrong mother too far. What did Sage whisper that made them so terrified? And what family secrets are about to be revealed? Drop a comment below with your guess, smash that like button if you're already hooked, and don't forget to subscribe because this story is just getting started. 3 hours earlier, our kitchen had smelled like cinnamon and hope. I was pulling my grandmother's famous coffee cake from the oven when the doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of family I hadn't seen in 2 years. Ezra had been practicing in his room all morning, his small fingers dancing across the guitar strings like whispered prayers. He'd learned 3 new songs for today, wanting to impress the relatives who rarely visited our small town of Millbrook Springs. "Mama, do you think they'll want to hear me play?" he'd asked, his dark eyes bright with excitement. The innocence in his voice made my chest tighten now remembering. I should have known something was wrong when Delphine stepped into my house wearing that sharp, cloying perfume and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She surveyed our modest living room like an appraiser calculating worth. "Still living in Dad's old place, I see," she said, her voice carrying that familiar edge of superiority. Behind her, Aunt Cordelia clutched her designer purse like armor. They'd come to discuss the family estate, they said. Legal matters that needed settling. But their eyes kept drifting to Ezra's guitar propped in the corner, and I felt something shift in the atmosphere like storm clouds gathering. "That's quite an instrument for such a young boy," Cordelia observed, her words dripping with false sweetness. I watched Ezra beam with pride as he explained how Grandpa had given it to him, how he practiced every day, how music made him feel close to his grandfather's memory. What I saw as love and dedication, they saw as opportunity. The trap was already set. I just didn't know it yet. 23 years ago, in this same living room, I'd held my father's calloused hands as he placed that guitar in my lap. "This belonged to my daddy, and his daddy before him," he'd whispered, his voice hoarse from the cancer eating away at his lungs. "For generations of music, Sage. For generations of love." I was 22 then, fresh out of college, with dreams bigger than our small town could hold. The guitar felt heavy in my hands, weighted with history I wasn't sure I deserved. "I can't play like you did, Dad," I'd confessed, tears blurring my vision. He'd smiled then. That gentle smile that could heal wounds and mend broken hearts. "It's not about playing perfectly, sweetheart. It's about keeping the music alive." When Ezra was born 5 years later, that guitar became his lullaby. I'd hold him close and strum the simplest melodies, watching his tiny fingers reach for the strings like he was trying to catch stardust. By age 3, he could hum every song I played. By 5, he was picking out melodies on his own. By 7, he played with a soul that made grown men weep. Dad had been gone 3 years when Ezra first asked about the man in the photographs. I told him stories about his grandfather's gentle hands and generous heart, about Sunday mornings filled with gospel music and Saturday nights when the guitar sang the blues. "He left this for me?" Ezra had asked, running his small palm along the worn wood. "For all of us," I'd answered. "For the music to continue." I should have remembered that some people see inheritance as theft. Some people believe love is a zero-sum game. I should have been more careful who I trusted with our treasures. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in September, 3 weeks before that devastating family gathering. "Miss Sage? This is Phineas Blackwood from Blackwood and Associates. I handled your father's estate. We need to discuss some recent developments." His voice carried the weight of expensive suits and mahogany desks, but underneath I detected something else. Concern. Maybe even fear. "What kind of developments?" I asked, stirring Ezra's oatmeal while balancing the phone against my ear. "It would be better if we met in person. Are you available this afternoon?" The law office smelled like leather and secrets. Mr. Blackwood was older than I remembered, his silver hair now completely white, his hands shaking slightly as he opened a thick manila folder. "Your cousin Delphine has been asking questions," he began carefully. "About your father's will. About certain assets that weren't properly documented." My blood turned to ice water. "What assets?" "She seems to believe there were valuable items that should have been divided among all the children. Musical instruments. Antiques. She's hired her own attorney. The guitar. She was coming for Ezra's guitar. But Dad left everything to me," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. Mr. Blackwood's eyes were kind but worried. "Your father's will was informal in some regards. Handwritten. Some items weren't specifically catalogued." He leaned forward. "Miss Sage, I need you to understand something. That guitar your boy plays? It's worth more than your house." The room tilted. "What do you mean?" 1952 Martin D. 28, custom inlay, pristine condition. Conservative estimate? $40,000. Maybe more. $40,000. Enough to change Delphine's life. Enough to destroy mine. I spent 3 weeks preparing for war I hoped would never come. Every document. Every photograph. Every scrap of paper that proved Dad's intentions. I organized them like a general preparing battle plans because I knew in my bones that Delphine wasn't coming for coffee cake and small talk. Ezra sensed the tension. Children always do. "Mama, why do you look scared when you watch me play?" he asked one evening, his small hands stilling on the guitar strings. "How do you explain to a 7-year-old that some people see treasure where others see love? How do you prepare a child's heart for the cruelty that hides behind family smiles?" "I'm not scared, baby," I lied, kissing the top of his head. "I'm just thinking about how proud Grandpa would be of your music." The night before they arrived, I couldn't sleep. I walked through our small house, touching the things Dad had left us. The hand-carved wooden cross above the mantel. The faded quilt his mother had stitched. The photograph of 4 generations of men holding that same guitar. In the kitchen, I found the letter. It was tucked behind the sugar canister, written in Dad's careful script on stationery that smelled faintly of pipe tobacco even after all these years. "My dearest Sage," it began. "If you're reading this, it means someone is questioning my wishes. Someone is trying to take what I freely gave." My hands trembled as I read words I'd never seen before. Words that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Words that revealed secrets buried deeper than cemetery plots. By the time I finished reading, the sun was rising and my world had shifted on its axis. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into my pocket. "Let them come." The letter revealed a name I'd heard whispered in dark corners my entire childhood: Uncle Marcus. Dad's younger brother. The family ghost. The one whose photographs had been surgically erased from family albums, whose name triggered uncomfortable silences and sudden subject changes. Marcus wasn't just reckless, Dad had written in his careful script. He was dangerous. He stole from our mother when she was dying. Sold her jewelry to feed his gambling addiction while she lay in a hospital bed, wondering why her wedding ring had vanished. I remembered now the hushed arguments between Dad and Aunt Cordelia years ago. How she'd defend her youngest son with the fierce loyalty of a mother bear, even as he destroyed everything he touched. Marcus stole my guitar once, the letter continued. Pawned it for drug money in 1987. It took me 3 years to track it down and buy it back. 3 years of working double shifts just to reclaim what was already mine. The puzzle pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Marcus was Delphine's father. She wasn't just my cousin. She was the daughter of a thief, raised by a woman who'd spent decades justifying his crimes, twisting theft into misunderstanding and cruelty into survival. I gave you everything because I trust you, Dad's letter concluded. Because I know you'll protect what matters. The music. The love. The truth. Marcus's daughter will come for it someday. When she does, remember this. Some people inherit love, and some people inherit hunger. Don't let hunger devour what love built. I pressed the letter against my heart and thought about justice. About how the sins of fathers echo through generations like ghost songs played on stolen instruments. Outside, a car door slammed. They had arrived. Ezra, play something for your family, I said, my voice steady as mountain stone. My son's face lit up like Christmas morning. He settled the guitar across his small lap, positioned his fingers with the precision of a surgeon, and began to play Amazing Grace. The melody filled our living room like morning sunlight, each note clear and true. Ezra's eyes were closed, lost in the music the way children lose themselves in dreams. His grandfather's gift sang through his hands, for generations of love made audible. I watched Delphine's face change. The fake smile melted away, replaced by something raw and hungry. Her eyes fixed on the guitar with the intensity of a predator marking prey. Aunt Cordelia leaned forward, her mouth slightly open, as if she could swallow the music and make it hers. Very nice, Delphine said when the song ended, her voice dripping with false sweetness. That's quite an expensive instrument for such a young child. It belonged to his grandfather, I replied, my hand resting protectively on Ezra's shoulder. Actually, Cordelia interjected, her tone sharpening like a blade. It belonged to the whole family. Your father never had the right to give away something so valuable without consulting his siblings. The trap was springing. I could hear the metal teeth clicking into place. Grandpa Marcus always said that guitar should have been his, Delphine added, standing up and moving closer to my son. He was the real musician in the family. Not your father. That's when she did it. Reached down and grabbed the guitar from Ezra's hands before he could react. A child this young doesn't understand the value of something like this, she said, her voice rising with manufactured righteousness. And then she raised it above her head like an executioner's axe. I know what Marcus did to Grandma Rose. 6 words. Soft as falling snow. Sharp as surgical steel. The guitar hung suspended above Delphine's head, her arms trembling with the weight of her intended destruction. But something in my voice had frozen her mid-swing. Aunt Cordelia's face drained of color, becoming pale as old bone. Her designer purse slipped from her hands and hit the floor with a sound like a judge's gavel. I found Dad's letter this morning, I continued, my voice steady as a funeral director's. The one he hid behind the sugar canister. The one that explains everything. I reached into my pocket and withdrew the folded pages, letting them rest in my palm like evidence in a courtroom. Marcus stole from his own dying mother, I said, each word measured and precise. Sold her wedding ring while she lay in the hospital. Pawned Dad's guitar for drug money. And you, Aunt Cordelia, you covered for him every single time. Delphine's arms began to shake. The guitar wobbled dangerously in her grip. That's not true, Cordelia whispered, but her voice carried no conviction. Only the hollow sound of long-buried guilt finally seeing daylight. Dad kept records, I continued. Police reports. Pawn shop receipts. Hospital bills he paid because Marcus spent the insurance money on cocaine. I paused, letting the weight of truth settle over them like dust on a coffin. And you want to know the best part? He left copies with his lawyer. Insurance, he called it. The guitar slipped from Delphine's nerveless fingers. The sound of mahogany splitting. Like a bone snapping. Like a family breaking apart. But I wasn't finished yet. As the broken pieces of Ezra's guitar scattered across our hardwood floor, Something inside me crystallized like ice forming on winter glass. I knelt beside my son and gathered him into my arms, feeling his small body tremble with confusion and grief. Over his head, I looked at the two women who had just shattered more than wood and strings. "You want to know what else Dad's letter said?" I asked, my voice carrying the quiet authority of someone who holds all the cards. I stood slowly, keeping Ezra close to my side. He knew this day would come. He knew Marcus had filled his daughter's head with lies about deserving what was never his. I smiled then, cold and sharp as December wind. "So he set up a trust." Delphine's face crumpled. "What kind of trust?" "The kind that activates when someone tries to steal from his grandson." I pulled out my phone and speed-dialed a number I'd memorized 3 weeks ago. "Mr. Blackwood?" "It's Sage." "Yes, it happened exactly like Dad predicted. The guitar is destroyed, but we have witnesses to the assault." I watched understanding dawn in Delphine's eyes like sunrise over a graveyard. "Assault?" she whispered. "On a minor. Destruction of property worth $40,000. In front of witnesses." I kept my voice conversational, almost friendly. "Dad's trust includes a legal defense fund specifically for this scenario." Apparently, he'd been planning for this conversation longer than any of us realized. Aunt Cordelia sank onto the couch as if her strings had been cut. "Sage, please. We're family." "Family," I repeated softly, "protects each other. Family doesn't destroy a child's most precious possession while laughing about it." I knelt beside the broken guitar and picked up a piece of the mother-of-pearl inlay. "But here's what you didn't know. This guitar? It was insured. For replacement value." The silence stretched between us like a tightrope. 6 months later, I stood in the same spot where Delphine had destroyed my son's guitar, watching Ezra's fingers dance across the strings of his new instrument. Not just any instrument. The 1951 Martin D-28 that Mr. Blackwood had located through the insurance investigation. Pristine condition. Museum quality. Worth $60,000. "It sounds even better than the old one, Mama," Ezra said, his eyes bright with the joy that had been absent for weeks after that terrible day. The insurance money had done more than replace a guitar. It had revealed the complete scope of Marcus's thefts over the years. Police investigations. Asset recovery. Justice served cold and thoroughly. Delphine lost her job when the embezzlement charges were filed. Aunt Cordelia sold her house to pay legal fees. Marcus, tracked down in Nevada, faced charges in 3 states. But the most beautiful revenge was sitting right here beside me. "Want to hear the new song I learned?" Ezra asked. "Always," I replied, settling back to listen. As his music filled our living room, I thought about Dad's letter and the final paragraph I hadn't shared that terrible day. "Love always wins, Sage. Not because it's stronger than cruelty, but because it's more patient. Love builds while hatred destroys. Love creates while greed consumes. Trust the music. Trust the love. Trust that justice and kindness can dance together like notes in perfect harmony." Outside our window, spring was returning to Millbrook Springs. Inside our small house, for generations of music played on, stronger and sweeter than before. The guitar sang. Ezra smiled. And somewhere, I knew Dad was listening. "Did you see that ending coming?" Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting love and justice work together. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments about what touched you most, and subscribe for more stories that prove love always finds a way to win.